Ladies and gentlemen, we are here with Dusty Mancinelli and Madeleine Sims-Fewer, and they are about to unleash holy hell on South by Southwest and Shudder um, with their amazing film Violation. How are you guys?
Great.
We're
Thanks.
great. Your background is freaking me out.
I know. It's like,
amazing.
whoa.
Forgive me for fanboying just a little, but this was easily one of the most uh, affecting films since Takashi Miike's Audition. Um,
So much. We also just have to say that we love Audition.
Yeah.
And it wasn't a touchstone for this film, but it's something that now people have said a couple of times. I'm like, oh, it must have been in the back of our minds somewhere.
well, what fascinates me the most is this is a film I had to go back to a few key scenes and rewatch things because it begs it begs multiple watches for the key moments, and in the scenes where people are debating what just happened or what's going on. Or now, how did as a writing and directing pair, how did the two of you, and as male and female, how did you guys approach the story, the crux of the matter, and how to attack it?
Yeah, it's a great question. So we met at the TIP Talent Lab in 2015, and we were both making our own short films, but we realized we were looking for a collaborator, and so we started, experimenting and making films together. And we really just loved the process. And our friendship was founded on our own shared histories of abuse and trauma. And in our shorts, we started experimenting with those topics a little bit and those themes. And we realized with Violation, we really wanted to capture the visceral experience of trauma and what does it do to the body, that the idea of post-traumatic stress. And
Yeah, we knew we wanted it to be just from this one woman's perspective, but we also have never been interested in creating work that is black and white in terms of the character dynamics. We always want the audience to be somewhat recontextualizing who the people are, who the characters are. So although it is from this one woman's perspective, and we're experiencing as the audience, hopefully, her mental and emotional unraveling through the film, we also see very complex and nuanced sides to her brother-in-law and her sister and her husband as well.
Yeah, and within the kind of rape revenge genre, we kind of notice, a lot of the villains are, nefarious. They're strangers. These perpetrators are these. There's no complexity to who they are, and it just didn't capture our own unique experiences with abuse in our past. And the idea that abuse happens within households, but it happens, with people that you're close to, that you trust and you respect, you care about. That's actually far more of a betrayal, or far more shocking and complex to kind of grapple with. And so really it was about calling upon our own experiences and trying to, like Madeleine said, make the audience, feel really conflicted, because you like this person hopefully at one point in the movie, and then you feel ultimately betrayed by them throughout the film.
Yeah, the one thing that I really appreciated uh, that you did was you played with so much ambiguity, and then on top of that, you used the editing trick and playing with the timeline and just really making somebody grab on and just like try to process things. Um, for instance, and I hate to get into spoilers, but in particular, when the violation occurs, you know, she's saying, "Don't stop." He's half drunk and not hearing anything. And what does the wasp on the finger have to do with clarifying what's happening?
Yeah, so for us, in that moment, we wanted to really hopefully capture the exact feeling that she's going through as she wakes up into this horrific violation that is happening to her in that moment. And hopefully there is not an ambiguity there in the moment of what is happening to her and what the betrayal is. But we didn't want that scene to be titillating in any way. We didn't want it to be kind of gratuitous, or we wanted it to be more about the feeling of being horrified and being frozen. And that's really what the shot of the hand is this sense of, and so many people have expressed this, and it's something that we've definitely experienced as well personally, of being frozen and unable to do anything, and then later on feeling like, oh, I should have said this to them, I should have pushed them away, I should have done more, and you start to blame yourself for this thing that you are in no way to blame. But it's this idea of she's completely frozen in fear and in horror, and in trauma, and that's what hopefully the shot of the hand evokes.
And what's really important to note is that she's asleep.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that some viewers may miss that, or are not used to seeing this act of violence occur in such a quiet way. And the fact that there is this misunderstanding, at least from his point of view, he does not understand that what has happened, what has transpired, but we as a viewer understand what has transpired. I think that's kind of really pivotal, because we're just not used to seeing that. We're used to seeing these kind of really violent, aggressive actions that do occur, but it was really important to us to show another side that was personal to us, that others also experience.
Because oftentimes trauma and abuse doesn't happen overtly. It happens in very quiet moments, subtle moments that sometimes other people in the same room don't catch.
Yeah, and I think you think of the scene in the tool shed, and it's really important because there's this moment where she gives him room. There's room within their friendship, within their relationship, to overcome this.
Yeah, and that was what I was going to ask you. Where was the violation? Was it at the campsite or the campfire, or was it during the conversation?
Yeah, or was it during in the moment where her sister doesn't believe her? For us, it's these small violations of trust that compound the trauma that Miriam feels, and then lead her to feel like she has no other option than the course that she takes. And then hopefully we realize that, of course, there's another option than what she does.
Forgive me, I didn't mean to step on what you were saying about the tool shed, but what were you going for on that one? I mean,
I think what's so pivotal is just that, you have this complex character he's charming, he's affable. We see this friendship. He does this horrific thing, but what makes it more complicated is that she leaves room for him to admit it and or acknowledge it or accept it, and that there's room for them to actually overcome this. She at one point within the tool shed, she says we can work this out. There was that space for it, and that's really important to us, that there's these different moments within the film where if he had just admitted to it, if her sister hadn't denied her what's happened to her, that the whole story would have unfolded a completely different way. I think that's really the key thing that we were trying to drive in.
Yeah, no question. And there's so much to think about in this film. It's an incredibly dense piece of work, but my next thought just totally eluded me. How was the response at Sundance?
You know what? Actually, I think of all the festivals we've played, it's been the most positive and the most warm toward the film. I would say just generally across the board, we recognize that we're making a provocative movie. It's going to be divisive. The thing that's kind of surprising to us is how some audience members are responding to the full frontal male nudity. It's in a way that we hadn't really anticipated. It's we're not doing anything completely new here with the full frontal male nudity, but I think it's because of the context in which we see it. We see a woman fully dressed. She's empowering a man. We see that he's incredibly vulnerable, and then we
And then
know.
there's an act of violence.
And incredibly aroused and
Yeah.
incredibly misinterpreting everything.
Yes, exactly. I think it's upset some men just because they're not used to seeing it in the same way that it's shocking to viewers because we're used to seeing a woman be disempowered and and being sexualized and being vulnerable. We're used to that depiction, but we're not used to the inverted form of that.
Which is a powerful statement. And for me, I was just like, okay, this is the reality of the moment. But to see, I mean, the actor, I forget his name. I'm terrible. But Jesse, was it?
Jesse.
Okay, that was a fearless performance. That was wow.
Yeah.
I mean,
One of the bravest actors I think that we've ever encountered. His sensitivity and his willingness to go to incredibly dark and incredibly exposed and vulnerable places is totally unparalleled.
We were very lucky. We worked with Jesse on 2 of our shorts in the past. So we had built this foundation of trust and respect, and we had a friendship with him. So when we brought him the project, we were really transparent upfront. Hey, look, there's full frontal male nudity. If that's a problem, don't bother reading it. It's not a big deal. But he's such a professional, and he was, he'd never done it before. It was something that I think, felt really comfortable having worked with us and knowing that we were going to create a very safe space where he felt trusted. I think that was really the most important part.
Yeah. So what I can say is just thank you for creating something that is unbelievably effective, and made me think. And I think that's what effective cinema should do. Especially, would you call this a horror film or a revenge film?
I mean, I think in many ways it's an anti-revenge film that dabbles in horror and
it's
drama.
maybe a drama with some horror leanings.
Yeah, I would definitely put it into psychological horror because I think what the film does is it creates a unique kind of roller coaster experience of dread. The whole movie, you're kind of like hopefully feeling the sickness in your stomach of like falling because something horrific is going to happen, and you're dreading the moment that it's going to finally reveal itself to you.
Yeah, absolutely dreading the moment. And when it does happen, uh, when he's hanging, well, I don't want to spoil anything, but that scene was unbelievable. And Madeleine, your work in that particular scene, I don't know how you did that.
Well, it was real.
I did it.
Yeah. It's full commitment. That was important to Madeleine right at the beginning because it's such a pivotal moment where this character is doing something really horrific, and at the same time we wanted to show you that she's human, like she's horrified and sickened by what she's doing. So and there's a level of realism in the way the violence is portrayed, and the vomit, the juxtaposition of those 2 elements is really important.
The physicality was really important to me as an actor, and kind of mirroring the physicality of the wolf was something that I thought about a lot, and kind of having Miriam almost become this wolf-like creature by the end of it.
This film is remarkable, and it's an important one, and I think people need to see it. It's disturbing and wonderful, and I loved it.
Thank you so much.
Thanks
really
a lot,
appreciate it, Norm.
All right, best of luck to you on your future premieres here, and hope to see you again in the future.